folks, my name is Tom Vasel. Welcome to the Best of Publishers series, where we take a look at different publishers and I tell you about my favorite games from that publisher. This publisher we're going to split into two different categories, and this publisher is Kosmos. Kosmos, or in America, Thames Kosmos. Kosmos is one of the biggest publishers in the world. Now, part of that is because of one game, Settlers of Catan. That game has become a huge international phenomenon over time. But today I'm actually going to be concentrating on just part of the Kosmos line, and that is the Kosmos two-player games. This was a series of small box games that were meant for two players. And some of these games have become incredibly popular, although some of them are absolute dreck also. I believe there are 43 different games in this line. I'm going to be just talking today about my 10 favorite. Now, I don't know if this line is actually still an ongoing thing or not. It's hard to tell these days because most of the games I picked for my list are from a decade or so ago. And when that happened, these games, some of them were nominated for the Spiel des Jahres. This was a big deal. Now, two-player games are not always easy to get to the table, although for some people, they're easier than others. But if you have someone that you want to play games with, and these are not long, complex games, they're mostly short, entertaining games, the Kosmos two-player series, it's hard to go wrong with. Here are my 10 favorites. Starting with number 10, Dracula. Now, I wouldn't expect this game to be, I didn't know what to expect from this. The box itself, just showing the fangs and things. But one person is playing Dracula, the other person is playing Van Helsing, and you're going around. It's almost a little bit of a memory game as you're trying to figure out what cards are where. The Van Helsing player is trying to stake a certain number of Dracula people. Dracula's trying to bite a certain amount of people, and you're going around blocking each other from going in different routes. It's kind of a movement, memory style game, but it's really quite well done. Even if you don't like horror, this might be a game you find fascinating because the Dracula theme is there, but it's not ultra strong and the game isn't gory at all. Dracula. Number 9 is Heave Ho. This is a tug of war game. And I like the idea of this game where you're playing cards on both sides of the player's boards as you're trying to get a stronger team pulling your rope against the other team's rope. It's silly, but it's fun. There's an interesting... The first half of the game, you're kind of like, you take half the deck and you're splitting them. And these are the cards for your opponent. These are the cards for you. So you want to give them cards that aren't as good as the cards you give you, but they're doing the same thing. So that's kind of an interesting way to start up the game. The game has a very silly, cartoony, Scottish theme to it, but I really enjoy it. I mean, the Loch Ness Monster shows up in this game. That's Heave Ho. Number 8 is Babel. Now, the first time I played Babel, I did not like it because this game is a mean, vicious game. And the person who taught it to me was like, bah, 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 ha, 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 ha. And I was like, wow, I don't like this at all. However, once you get past that initial learning curve, it's really entertaining. As you're playing groups of cards to build different ziggurats, and you're trying to build them on your side, but you're also blowing up your opponents. And I don't normally like take-that games, but this one works really well as you are trying to get the right combinations of cards to beat out your opponents. That's Babel. Number 7 is one of 3 different Lord of the Rings games in this universe. They had one terrible game, they had one decent game, and they had one great game. The great game is Lord of the Rings Confrontation. The other one is The Duel and The Search for the Ring or something was the awful one. But Lord of the Rings Confrontation was like bringing Stratego to a board game. I mean, here we have Lord of the Rings, and you are trying to get, the light side players trying to get the hobbits from one side of the table to the other, and the dark player, the Sauron player, is trying to stop him. But you are like attacking with one piece, and you flip them over, higher number wins, just like Stratego, except everyone has a special ability. And even though the good pieces are considerably weaker than the bad pieces, they have better special abilities. So the game, while asymmetrical, feels pretty balanced. It is an excellent game. That's Lord of the Rings Confrontation. Number 6 is Hera and Zeus, which recently has been republished from Z-Man Games as Thunder and Lightning. But Hera and Zeus was like a card game version of Stratego. So I just mentioned that Lord of the Rings Confrontation was like Stratego as you move pieces, but this one here you have cards, and you are playing these cards on your side table and sometimes attacking, and again, the higher number winning. But you're trying to find one card that your opponent has. So it might be on the table, and you attack it, you win the game. But it might be in their hand, but you have cards that let them pull things out of their hands. So you're trying to bluff the other person, play special cards, trying to play the right card at the right time and keep that card hidden from your opponent. Really well-designed game from Richard Borg. Number 5 is Kahuna. Now, Kahuna is a game about controlling islands or whatever, but the game itself is actually a very intriguing one as you're placing bridges. You're playing cards to place bridges between two islands, and if you ever have the majority of bridges on an island, you wipe out all your opponent's bridges on that island, which could wipe them out another island. It could have these chain reactions. So it's this back and forth, very tense game, but really simple, but offers a lot of depth. Really great game, Kahuna. Number 4 is Starship Catan. Now, Kosmos, not in a 2-player line, but Kosmos, Catan was very popular, and then they made a 2-player version of Catan, the Settlers Catan card game. But then Starship Catan actually came into the 2-player Kosmos series. And this game was just phenomenal. It was kind of like the card game, the 2-player version of the big Starfarers of Catan. But in this game, you have your own starship. You actually could trade with your opponent. It's one of the few games that offer trading in a 2-player game where it worked. But there's also a bit of a memory element as you were go explore into these piles of space cards in the middle of the table and run across different things and see what's going to happen. Really good game. Barely fits in a box, a lot of pieces, solid game, and yet it's only my number 4. Number 3 is Lost Cities. Lost Cities is my most played game from this line, to the point where I'm pretty sure I played this one more than all the other games on this list put together. And it's only number 3, but that's because the other 2 I played more recently. But Lost Cities, a great game. My wife and I both enjoy this one. This one is actually in print today. If you want to play a great 2-player game where you're both trying to put cards in front of you and score points, but you're sitting there, and every time you discard a card, there's a chance your opponent, that's the exact card that they need. So I'm trying to keep cards in my hand to keep my opponent from getting them. Oh, lots of great fun and strategy in Lost Cities. Number 2 is Jambo. And recently, Z-Man made another game, Asante, and they're basically the same game and they can be combined. But Jambo is another game in which there is trading and things involved with your opponent too. And in this game, this game is a deck of cards, and that deck of cards is just so full of things with animals where you can attack your opponent, or with different items which give you special bonuses, or you're just trading in goods, getting goods here, and then trading them in for points, and you're trying to get a certain amount of money. Really solid game. There's so much variety in that deck, and if you add the expansion, even more variety that you can play this game over and over and over again, and each time it's going to feel different. And my favorite game from the Kosmos 2-player line is Targi. Targi is a worker placement game. There are very few worker placement games that work well for 2 players, but Targi is one of them. Targi is this close to being a board game. As you put the cards out, make a board, and on your turn, you're putting workers out to claim cards in rows and columns. But when you put it there, you stop your opponent from going to that same row or column. So it's always this, I'm going to go here to take this, and I'm going to try to stop you from getting that. This back and forth between the players. Really like this one. The really interesting thing about the Kosmos 2-player line is that games 1, 2, 3, 4, the top 4 games are all still my collection. And then number 6, Hera and Zeus, I have Thunder and Lightning, the upgraded version of that in my collection. And Kahuna, the only reason I don't have that one in my collection is because I know that someone else in my gaming group has it. These are solid, great games. This is one of the greatest lines of games in history. Now, don't get me wrong. They put out some of the worst games ever. There's like 3 or 4 at the bottom of this 2-player line, which is awful. But the ones that are great are truly wonderful. Tell me what your favorites are in the comments. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and this has been Best of Publishers, Kosmos 2-player line.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.